Let's head across to Neeraj to find out how exactly the closing is panning out today. And Neeraj, a cut of 1% is where we opened the market today.
Yeah, and actually we slipped down quite a bit from there, so this is probably a close that people would take with both hands. The Nifty Bank maybe could have done a bit better, but private banks are pulling that index down. Interested in seeing what the broader end of the spectrum is closing like, and in a bit we'll also tell you how the market breadth has been. And look at that, it's been a fairly robust performance out there. I guess the market breadth will not be looking as adverse as what people would have thought would happen at the start of the trading day today. Though in terms of the index movers, there is, well, on the Sensex, there's really one Tata Steel to talk about. Some pharma names absent from this list, which are present in the Nifty, are doing well. But yeah, Dr. Reddy is filling up for that. But look at the list of losers. No big gashes really, but private banks like Yes Bank and ICICI Bank, and private lenders like HDFC. So it's all the whole private lending space which is corrected quite strongly in the session today. There is Reliance right at the bottom of the screen, just about 0.5% down. ITC less than 1% down. So the two big heavyweights haven't really cracked too much. It's just blame it on the financials. Probably what happened in the US was similar. Right now in our markets too, the financial names are the ones which have cracked the most, at least on the large cap end of the market. But the broader markets, I think, equally divided, Navneet. Enough and more stocks which are gaining, and gaining with fairly high volumes as well.
And for a change, the broader markets outperformed the benchmark indices today, and there were some companies which reported their earnings and the markets gave thumbs up. I want to start off with Steel Authority. Good set of numbers. Company posted a profit figure after posting losses for last 10 consecutive quarters. And look at that, 9% higher, almost closing at day's high. Well, there was a rub-off effect seen on the entire metal space. That was the index which was bucking the trend. So you also had stocks like Hindustan Zinc. That too rose in today's session. And finally, Hindustan Zinc settled with gains of 6% at levels of 304. Torrent Power, a counter which is there in the futures and options market, was also quite active, and that too closed around the day's high levels with gains of 4%. While Fortis Healthcare, I don't know after how many sessions this counter was languishing in that range of around 130 to 140. Today, finally 18% higher after the news of Singh brothers stepping down from the board, and that's what augured well for the shareholders, I believe, today. So 18% higher for Fortis Healthcare. From the broader market, you also had Hindustan Ventures. In the second half of the session, this counter saw strong gains coming about, as the chart will tell you. Hindustan Ventures, the stock I'm talking about. The entire sugar space was up and about after the government imposed a quota on mill owners to release sugar. So Uttam Sugar was the one which was quite active in today's trade, up 12.5%. Anil Ambani Group stocks, you had Reliance Naval and Reliance Capital. That one reacted to its earnings. Profits were higher by nearly 50%. Glenmark had a bad day today after posting its numbers. So Glenmark was the top F&O loser also for the day, seeing cuts of nearly 7.5%. Remember, Sun TV will be coming out with its numbers today. Yesterday, the stock saw strong gains, but there was some profit booking now ahead of the numbers, 3.5% lower for that. And also reacting to its numbers was Manappuram Finance, which slumped, I guess, nearly in the range of 3.5% to 4% in today's session, Neeraj.
Yeah, well, and on balance, I just want to bring up one, the heat map, two, the advanced decline ratio, and three, the turnover picture as well in the session today. Three things that we should just quickly monitor before we get in final thoughts from our experts. So the market, the advanced, the heat map, obviously not looking as bad as it was on open, because all Nifty 50 stocks were in the red. At close, we have some gainers from the pharma, a couple of names from the IT space as well, and some defensives. Essentially, it's a defensive flavor as well, with the likes of Power Grid, HUL, and certain pharma names out there. Now, the advanced decline ratio and the market breadth will come up on your screen. Well, there you see some bit of convergence, but from the yawning gap that we had at the start, and which is the point I think that both me and Navneet were making, that we started off really poorly, but then converged during the course of the day. You can argue that yes, this could have been a bit better, and the declines are still leading the advances, but it's almost even Stevens, to be honest. And last but not the least, the volumes, they were very thin today, and yeah, it closed too. These are very thin volumes. At about noon or slightly post noon, we had not even done 18,000 crores. So today's been a low participation day. I doubt that there'll be significantly high FIDI sell numbers, but you never know. And
also,
this is not
it's weekend, Neeraj. I guess traders may not want to roll over their positions, considering the kind of volatility which is there now in the US markets.
Yeah, and even the cash market position is not as high as normally you would have seen. And lastly, just this week's performance, and it'll show you that why. Remember, compared to the rest of the Asian world, we've actually done a lot better. But enough and more participation from pharma, with Reddy's, Sun Pharma and Cipla being right up there, and some pain that has come in from financials. So Kotak Bank, HDFC Bank, and IndusInd Bank and Yes Bank. Actually HDFC too. 5 out of the top 10 losers are all financial names. So that's not looked too good in this week gone by. Final thoughts from our experts. Deepak Shinoy, before we thank you, just, a lot of people tune in at the last 10 minutes of trade and try and get a sense of what would experts like you be thinking. Deploying money selectively, or are you wanting to sit on dry gunpowder with an option of deploying it a bit later on?
I'm deploying with the idea that I will have to deploy over the next 2 or 3 months. We were quite heavily into cash the early part of this year, so 40% plus in cash. So we've been deploying in the last 15 days. I think we continue to deploy. The problem is a lot of our stocks have recovered a little too fast. So it'd give me more comfort if they were to have fallen a lot more. And but I expect that this volatility will continue. There is a lot of macro pressure from the US. Interest rates and yields rising, to some liquidity and fund flow issues that we specifically identified in India. Over the next 2 months, I think that will play out, and hopefully better prices. So I don't think great idea to put all your money in one day thinking this is the end. It's better to spread it out. It doesn't matter if the stock market continues to go up after that. I'm just more comfortable that way.
Okay, let's also get some closing thoughts from our technical experts. Himin, over to you first. On Monday, would you be looking to take any trade on the benchmark indices? Because for the longest time, I guess you're staying away from it.
I'll still play it a bit more safe and sell at 10,000 put options, Navneet. I don't think the market is going to tank miserably from here. So just to play it safe until we see some more stability, the VIX pulls off in the CPOE and Indian VIX. So sell the 10,000 puts. Otherwise, stock specific, we talked about Jubilant Food. Dominance takes 30 minutes to deliver. We delivered 18 bucks in 7 minutes. I mean, that's just on a lighter note. So stocks are doing what they're doing. We have shown a little bit of relative strength now, so I wouldn't be too bearish at this point in time. So I'd be more comfortable buying on dips. And once again, coming back to your this thing on the benchmarks, I'd sell the 10,000 puts.
Okay, 10,000 puts. Sarvendra, you've been bearish in the market. Let's say if there is any sort of rebound that comes on Monday, will you sell at higher levels?
Yeah, Navneet, for the week gone by, I think slightly disappointed in the sense that such a good trade, a good call went unacknowledged. I think Neeraj would have definitely acknowledged that, but I think that is the only negative for me this week. My call did not get acknowledged. But yeah, I think if there's a bounce, it's going to be a major trap. If it goes straight away from here to 97, I think the poison will be over. But if you get a bounce, trust me, if we get a bounce anywhere across the globe from here, it's going to be a major trap. And after that, the next week would be an even bigger sell-off. So I would pray that the bounce does not come and we go straight from here to 9,700. And same for the case of Dow, we straight go to 22,500. If we don't do that and if we bounce, I would be pretty bearish next week and for the next 15 days. If there's a bounce, it would be a big bull trap and world markets will sell off after that. So I am praying that there should be no bounce next week.
Okay. Well, your call acknowledged itself, Sarvendra. And by the way, if there is a bounce, trust me, we'll have a conversation as well. But all the best to both of you on your respective calls. Thanks so much for joining in today. And Deepak Shinoy, always a pleasure having you. Thanks so much for being with us today on the show. Okay, with that, it's a wrap on this leg of at least the market coverage on Countdown.